Hi, my name is Leah Day and welcome back to another video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Today we are piecing again and we've got a new block to work on for the month of May, and this is super quick, super fast, and it's a wonderful cheat to traditional piecing. So let's get started. Here's our block, and it is a drunkard's path. We've got these nice curves, but this is not traditional piecing. We are actually just going to layer these pieces, mark the quarter circle shape, stitch on top of it, and then trim away. And we will have some raw edges, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can see them. And this is going to be a-okay. It's a different technique. We might have, this is going to finish a little raw and ragged on this edge, but that's okay. It's trying something new and seeing a new way of making blocks with different techniques in piecing. So how do we make this? Well, you want to grab your two squares to start. We've got a fabric A square on the bottom and a fabric B square on top, and I've already marked a square in the middle. This is an 8-inch square in the middle, and this is going to be kind of our outer boundary line where we're going to line up our quarter circle template. So here's the template, and what you want to do is just simply print out this page of the Building Blocks quilt pattern. You can find that pattern at leahday.com. Print out an extra page, and I took a piece of freezer paper and just ironed it, pressed it over the page with waxy side down with a hot dry iron, and then I cut it out on the line. And I've got this nice thicker template that's going to be really easy to mark this block. And you're going to do this 3 times, and this template will absolutely hold up all 3 times. It works perfectly fine. So what you do, you've got a little line on this template. You want to line that line up with that the corner of the 8-inch square that you're working on. So you have a little line here to match up with your square, and a little line here, and you know that you're in alignment, and go on ahead and mark that quarter circle just right on top of the block. Okay, and then lift it up and do the same thing for the opposite side. You do want to make sure that you have tested your marking pencil before you do this to make sure that it definitely comes out of your fabric, because this is the top of our block. We want to make sure that these marks are going to come out after we stitch this in Quilted. Okay, so this is all the prep that we have to do. Let's take it to the sewing machine and start stitching. So here we go. All we're going to do is simply stitch through our scrap charger. That's just kind of getting my presser foot up to the right level, and it's stopping those long stray threads from kind of making a mess on the back of the quilt. I'm just going to lift my presser foot slightly and start stitching right on top of that marked line. I'm just stitching right on top, and if you need to kind of stop and rotate as we make the curve, that's perfectly fine. You just want it to be a nice smooth stitch out. If you're really worried about the idea of this being a raw edge, you could zigzag this if you wanted to. Just remember to change feet. This is kind of a narrow foot. You wouldn't want to try and do a zigzag stitch with it. So after you've stitched through one of the quarter circles, run through your scrap charger, clip off the block, and you want to make sure that this stays nice and flat. So I generally just kind of run my hand over it, make sure it's nice and flat and the 2 layers are together just right. And then now I'm going to do the exact same thing, just stitching right on top of that marked line. And you don't want to stitch on the square, the outline of the square, just the quarter circle, because that's the only part that needs to be set up right now. Okay, just finish up by stitching off of the block, and that is all of the piecing we have to do for this block. So here it is! Yay, it's done! No, not really. We've got a little bit of trimming to do. Here's the block I have for an example. What we're going to do is just trim about 1/8 of an inch outside of that stitching on the left hand side of the stitching, and that's going to reveal our A fabric below the B fabric. So what you want to do is you want to kind of separate the two fabrics out and make sure that you can get them separated, because if you cut through both of them, you're going to cut that quarter circle off all the way, and you don't want to do that. So you just want to have one layer of fabric that you're cutting and just trim carefully about 1/8 of an inch away from that marked line, away from your stitching line. And again, you don't want to go and pick up your rotary cutter for this. Definitely use a pair of nice fabric scissors to cut that away. You're going to end up with something that looks like that, and then repeat with the opposite side. There we go. Now, I said in the pattern, it is actually optional if you want to go to the back and clip away the fabric A in this section. It's completely up to you if you want to or not. Again, just separate the two fabrics out, and you're going to be cutting to the inside of these lines. And I left about, when I did this, when I ran through all my blocks, I left about 1/4 of an inch on this side from the edge of the stitching, so that way I had a little bit more overlap to the back than I did the front. It's definitely got more than enough fabric. It's going to be secure, so don't worry about those raw edges. I know not everyone is a fan of raw edge quilting and raw edge quilts, but I think it's fun to just play with it and see what happens in one block. So there we go. We've got that piece cut away, and so now we pretty much have a double-sided block. So which side is the right side? Well, go back to the side that you had your marks on originally. That's your right side. And what you want to do is go ahead and remark that square inside the block, and then use that to help you line up whenever you line up with your quilting guides and mark all of your quilting lines. So one extra thing, if you totally reverse this and do the opposite, which means mark and stitch the blue side on top instead, you're going to end up with basically the exact same thing, only the raw edge is going to be on this side, kind of angling this way, versus on this side the black is what is the raw edge here, the fabric B. So understand, even if you get this mixed up, it's perfectly fine. I got it mixed up for this block and it still looks identical, so it really honestly doesn't matter either way. So that's it for our Cheater Drunkard's Path block. Yes, this incorporates some raw edges, and you may or may not like that. But give it a try, give it a go. I promise we're going to make some beautiful blocks with this design, and it's going to look great no matter how this finishes. If the raw edges are really obvious on your quilt, it's going to look great, and yes, it is going to be secure. You're not going to end up with holes in your quilt. It's one of those things, a lot of people get really kind of limited in their beliefs of what a quilt can be, and I really want to open that back up for you and remind you that this quilting world is vast and it's amazing, and it's absolutely there for you to try everything, even the stuff that seems a little weird. And certainly these days for me, I'm always looking at, well, what is simple and what is easy, and what is fun. And traditional curve seam piecing, it doesn't really feel to me to be any of those things. I can do it, but I don't particularly like it. So that's why I wanted to teach this block this way. Of course, if you absolutely hate this method and you don't want to do it this way, and you know a way that you think is much, much better, hey, it's your quilt. Go do it your way. It's perfectly fine. You've got a template to use. If you wanted to turn that edge of the quarter circle shape, you could turn the edge and do it that way, do it as an applique. Totally up to you. So run with it. Have some fun, run with it, make 3 blocks. We are going to be quilting this 3 different times this month and learning loads more about free motion quilting along the way. So my name is Leah Day, and this has been a video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. find the building blocks quilt pattern and follow along with us as we learn both piecing and free motion quilting techniques this year. Find all of that at leahday.com, and until next time, let's go quilt!